go to a website, I could talk to friends, I could get influenced by television. A lot of it happening in a very short period of time. So different categories sit differently when you do this research, and that is of huge value. And therefore, again, media plays a different role where you sit on the journey. It can be a long journey, it can be a short journey, and understanding that is of value to the brands. So again, I would urge that for your own categories, even if you do not have a research, start thinking about it intuitively. How much action does it take? And if you can commission research, of course, this data is hugely valuable. That's the first one. Moving on, the second one, I think a lot of speakers before me touched upon this. Brands that are meaningfully different in the local context grow in value by a huge margin, 223%. This is data from BrandZ. BrandZ is part of parent company WPP, which gets published year on year. Huge value. And we've seen this, and working closely with media partners actually have enabled this. I'm going to play just one video to bring this alive, and this is a thanks to the Hindu group out here. I can see Nadu. Thanks to you and your team. This is the context for this, I will tell you, and then I'll play the video. This is for the brand Cadbury Dairy Milk, a brand most of us could have grown up with. We had a challenge to grow penetration in Tamil Nadu, and yes, we have a creative agency, but when we spoke to partners with Hindu, I think they came up with a brilliant idea. How do we increase the consumption of chocolates in a market which is kind of stagnant? It was one of the challenges. And the next slide is, can you go to the next slide? Yeah, can you play this video? It's a short video, 30 seconds. Just click on the video.
Myself are saying, you know, no? Or the
Don't worry, it's not playing. But I'll explain. It's okay. There are not many videos, so sorry for that. Dr. Murphy had played. I'll explain that what is there in the video. There is Chef Damu from Tamil Nadu, who is very popular. Actually, Hindu came up with this idea, and the entire ad was done by the Hindu team. It was not done by a creative agency. Sweet Kondatam. Kondatam is festival in Tamil for some of you non-Tamil speaking here. Essentially, how you can make a sweet, a local sweet using Cadbury chocolate. It's a very simple idea, powerfully done with local influences, with the local content. Huge impact on market share. Grew by 20-25%. We also saw that then kind of sustain. A lot of people, we invited them to send their recipe. So across Chennai, many of you might have even participated. We got tons of entries of households wanting to participate, and there was a contest. A huge engagement. I think earlier Sir spoke about engagement, so that was not the primary task, that also got ticked off, and the brand is going well. So I think localized knowledge with the power of media is something that you can still do. You don't need to spend large amount of money for this. The other one is media has always been thought of as a deliverer of audience, right? I have X number of eyeballs or readers. Yes, you can do that. But what if media is actually a business partner? This is a case study from one of our clients, which is FMCG. The task was simple. The brand was not growing in pure awareness. And awareness in these categories tend to help business growth. So we tied up with Star Jalsha, where it was not about GRP, reach and all. We said we will give you money or give you more money if you help increase our awareness. So the first month we advertised, not much happened. Over a 3-month period, that's the result. 6-point increase in awareness, and also as a byproduct, there are not much other advertising that we were doing. A 32% increase June to September period is something that we did. A lot of media companies have started doing this. So locally here in South, this is both an opportunity for marketers to explore, for agencies to explore, and media partners also to come forward and clearly demonstrate they're not just a deliverer of audience. That sounds very, low in my kind of hierarchy of things, but actually a true business partner. And there is a kind of a slab thing that you could do. The more results you deliver, more money you get. I don't think marketers would mind that, and it's a very interesting model. Number 4 is unleash the power of data. I think enough has been spoken about internet, so I'm not going to belabor that. But today, it is just not that Google or the Facebook who are data partners. Each one of you here who are running a business. Imagine you are a travel company. You are sitting with tons of consumer data yourself. What if that were to come in partnership with, say, a newspaper or a magazine or a OTT player? What you can unlock in value is humongous. There are early signs of this happening even in India, but I think each of you are sitting on tons of data, and if you're not using your data, I think you're missing an opportunity. So I would encourage a lot of brands not just to think of a one way where you can only get information from a media owner or agency, but also how you can use your own data. Of course, all the data protection laws, all those are the bare minimum that you have to cross. But today, in this day and age, it's not that difficult. In fact, as a company, we follow the strictest GDPR laws. So, but I would urge a lot of you. In the bottom, I have put a logo of, say, Sun Next, which is the OTT player. What if any of these brands came together with you? Or you go to the brands, and what value unlocking it can do is humongous. And geography really doesn't matter, because this is all digital data. The last, but not the least, is Rome was not built in a day. So I would think long term. Brands which have advertised during slowdown recession period have gained significantly. We have tons of studies, over 100 studies published globally. I don't think we need to re-establish that fact. For many marketers and agencies, what if you were to go to your media partner? Don't do a monthly deal. What if you were to do a 3-year deal or a 5-year deal? Yes, there is a risk involved, and you can mitigate the risk, but the returns that you're going to get in. So for some of our clients, we have started doing a 3-year deal, and these are massive deals. And today, when a slowdown is happening, I think many of our media partners here would also like to get that money. You can get fantastic value, and if you were to wear the hat of a business partner on top of this, I think value unlock is going to be humongous both sides. So as I said, there are maybe 100 other ways to do this. The idea is to just kind of start this thinking process in mind, and by no means this is an exhaustive list. I would urge that really break boundaries. The potential of South India, everybody out here knows, and speaker before me have gone into details on potential. Most importantly, collaborate. If we do this, I'm sure we can get here. We can collectively grow. If you think we are headed towards a desert, I can promise you we'll see a lot more flowers. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Challenges I could perspective. Request you to stay back. We'd like to thank you for the memento. I take this opportunity to invite Mr. Balakrishnan, VP South 4th Dimension, and Mr. Babu, AVP South 4th Dimension, to join us on stage. Fantastic speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, nice big round of applause for Mr. Karthik Sharma. worked across multiple consumer durable companies, he is now taking things forward to build the next generation of Harley-Davidson riders in India. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together as I invite Mr. Sajeev Rajsekharan, Managing Director, Harley-Davidson India, and he will take us through South India untapped business opportunities. Mr. Sajeev Rajsekharan, over to you.
Good morning, everyone. Can't hear many voices. Good morning, everyone. Okay, I am a Malayali who was born in Nagarkoil and brought up in Hyderabad. So I fairly understand what South India is all about. And as fate would have it, I am right now settled in a place called Gurgaon North. If I would have had a choice, probably it wouldn't have been the first or the second priorities in terms of where I would like to settle down. I will just take you through a bit of what is it that we see in terms of South, how it's been for Harley-Davidson, and what is the potential which is there in South India. To begin with, these are the images which immediately relate to any South Indian or anybody in India that this is what South is about. Now, the uniqueness in this is there could not be as many images for any other region which you could show and they would say that yes, this is about South. Please keep a note of the tea guy who is selling tea by the meter on the top center. I would have a story to say in my last line. Not that you should be ignoring the slides. Okay, what is it that's unique about South India? It's very, very congenial for startups. If you guys have seen Byju's, which is from Kerala, has got a valuation of about $1 billion, and that started from a remote area in the city of Kerala, and it's where it is now. There is a high consciousness for environment here, and there is also a lot of English-speaking population, which is what is the need for many industries in South. Also, if you look at the customer, he's more evolved. He's likely to spend on food followed by education. He's keen to explore the modern while staying strongly rooted in traditions and values, which was not the case earlier. And takes pride in his culture. There's a strong affinity still there for his language, food, and music. In terms of the subtle differences, earlier any guy from South used to be called a Madrasi in North, irrespective of where you belong to. So if there are any North Indians here in the audience who think we are all Madrasis, I thought I'll just share 2 slides that we are not all Madrasis. There is a subtle difference between all of them from the region where we come from. For the Kannadigas are more evolved and they are embracing newer technology. A Malayali loves his fish and rice. I'm not sure about how much he loves his liquor. And it's high on remittance when it comes to Gulf. If you look at a chameleon, I'll not take any chances here, so you're looking at where I'm speaking from. But then they are very, very proud of what we take pride in their culture. It's still a matriarchal society in some places, and Chennai is called the Detroit of India, and it's been the hub of many of the manufacturing units for automobiles, including I was talking to the MD of Renault that it's even the the R&D hub happens to be in Trivandrum, which caters not only to India but for the other places too. And Android, apart from loving his biryani, has also sent the maximum number of people to the US. I remember when I was studying in Hyderabad, and after that I could have my friends saying that we have the 88 batch playing with the 87 batch this weekend, which means there were more than 11 people in one area, geographical area in the US, who could have 11 players each to play a cricket game of 2 batches, the senior batch and the junior batch. Now it's also the preferred destination for international brands. You would be aware of IKEA opening its first store in Hyderabad. Taco Bell's also has opened it, and an evolved customer who understands the nuances and who's ready to adapt to newer brands. There's a saying by Max Holloway who said that men may lie, women may lie, but figures never lie. I made a small change in the original quote versus what I said now. I added the word may in it. And as the figures have to say, you have a higher share of the total FDI in terms of what is it in the national scene versus what's available in South India. The average growth is better. The percentage of population below poverty line is lesser than what it is in India. The number of households with electricity is 98.91% and literacy levels are the highest. What more a combination do you want in terms of, for the marketeers here, as to, it's the most potential set of consumers one can have. Now, other than that, there is also an SEZ corridor across the Grand South Branch. There are industrial corridors across the rest of the places. And one other thing which we see when it comes, especially my experience with the previous organization, when it comes to the government being friendly and open and welcoming to the manufacturer in terms of investments and wanting their people to get jobs, they are very, very proactive. Especially Andhra Pradesh and Telangana and South. Earlier there were times when people used to go out to the government and seek sops in terms of what needs to be done, and there was a lot of red tapeism. It's no longer like that. The governments are pitching between each other to get your brand to set up a manufacturing facility there, and they are actually being very, very proactive about the whole thing. Now the potential sectors, if I name about a couple of them, would be the retail, which has got a lot of scope with the higher GDP and a more aware population. FMCG, on an average, southern people pay 31% more for household care products and 12% more for food and beverage as compared to the rest of the country. Healthcare also is an area which has got a very high significance in terms of its potential. And so is the startups. Bangalore globally ranks among the top 3 tech cities in the country. Now, how many of you all were aware that the first motorcycle company had set up its base in South? It was Enfield in the year 1955, followed by Java in 1960. Not only this, Sholavaram in Chennai was India's first racetrack in the 1960s. It took about more than 5 decades for good circuit to come up in North. Now, why this is important is it creates an ecosystem. There's a culture of racing and riding. As they say that you race on a Sunday and sell from Monday. So the brand which wins on a Sunday generally has got, tries and leverages that in the next couple of weeks and months, and that's how it works. So South has been the area from where the racetrack culture began and the racing culture had started. And it was Sholavaram where the first racetrack existed. And when the highest CC displacement vehicles were not available, people used to even race on the mopeds at that point of time. So coming to a bit of Harley-Davidson. Now, we started in 29 and this happens to be our 10th year. And why I'm trying to show this is not to promote where we are. And we started with our footprint with the first store in Hyderabad 10 years ago. And what we are today is the last 10 years of Harley-Davidson, we have sold about 25,000 units, and every second bike, which is 600cc plus, happens to be a Harley-Davidson. So in short, the 10 years of existence in India, we've had a 50% market share cumulative. This is the South chapter. We also have rallies across the country. There is one in North, South, East and West. South, what we had was, earlier was in Cochin. This year we would have it next month in Hyderabad at Ramoji Film City. Why this stands out also is because it's the South rally where we see the maximum participation among all the 4 rallies. What this is a national, every year we have 5 events in all. North, South, East, West and one which is the national one which happens in Goa. And South happens to be the most attended and the best in terms of the way it's being conducted. We have 3 dealerships across the country. There is only one city where we have 3 dealerships, and that happens to be Bangalore. There is no other city because it's a niche brand, and we sell bikes from about 5.5 lakh rupee ex-showroom to about 50 lakhs, and it's not viable or the potential in many of the cities doesn't exist except for Bangalore, which is again part of South, and 40% of our sales come from the South of India. Now we had a contest of interns in the US. Interns is like a summer trainee which you might be aware of, a college student or somebody who's joined a job who wants to work in an organization for a month or so and try to learn how the organization functions from within and to get a hands-on experience in a month's time. Now, basis when it was run in the US a few years back, we got a lot of calls and mails saying that is it happening in India too? With that feedback, we started doing this. We tried to do an internship program in India, and we did it for the first time here, and we got about more than 2,300 applicants. Now, the applications were not just the name and the phone number. There was a lot of other things to do along with that. And when it was this 2,300, we were always thinking that what we would get is the college students, or those who just joined, or those who are hardcore enthusiasts. Now, what we realized was that while the majority was that, one of the 4 winners finally happened to be again a guy from the South and not a youngster. He was a 51-year-old guy, a Malayali from Hyderabad, who had defied all the norms of what an intern is typically like. A college student who was trying to do 2 months and earn some money. And it was Roy Chacko who was this. This also shows that how the thinking is changing and how the culture, which was more conservative and which was more secluded, is changing, and we experience this at home. Now, the way forward, it's a combination of all these things which only South would have. There could be some places which could have a few of them, but not all of them. So there is no other place which has got a combination of an evolved customer, a rich culture, emerging market, so many of them. So you would, for example, in Tamil Nadu, you would have a Chennai along with a Madurai, Coimbatore, Trichy, Salem, and all that, but not many states in the country could claim of so many cities with such potential other than the main cities where the state capital is. So this is one thing, a combination of which we should be aware of. Now, coming to my last slide, what I told you in the beginning of the tea stall guy. This was an incident which happened when Telangana and AP partition or the separation was happening from one state to 2 states. So there was a bun called on a day, and our rider, we have these rides which are long distance rides. So we call it the K2K ride, which is either from Kashmir to Kanyakumari or Kanyakumari to Kashmir. So the gentleman you see in the slide planned for a ride from Kanyakumari to Kashmir, and in between the place where there was a bun called on those days, he was out of fuel. Now he went to a tea stall guy and he gave the guy 2,000 bucks and said, I need to cross 80 kilometers and take 2,000 and get me 5 meters. Now the guy vanished and he had to meet those milestones at a particular distance because there are hotels booked and it is a very long journey and there is a support system. If he misses one destination reaching on time within that bandwidth of a couple of hours, he loses the rest of the milestones also, which would further delay his entire trip altogether. So he gave him 2,000 bucks, the guy did not come. So he thought the obvious, that maybe he's vanished and there's no way I can do anything. But surprisingly, after 1.5 hours, the guy comes back and says there's no petrol at all. I tried everywhere and keep this 2,000 back with me. Then the tea stall guy, by that time he was friendly with him. He had a couple of teas then, probably to get rid of his previous hangover, or he got friendly with him. And then he said, I can't let him go like this, we have to do something. Now the tea stall chap started calling all the people who he knew. They were a combination of rickshaw drivers to guys with mopeds and scooters and all that. Everybody came in who were his friends. And then what they did is, in a teacup, they took petrol from the tank of their vehicles and poured it into the Harley Davidson bike which he was doing. And finally, with a teacup of petrol, he could fill the tank to about 5 liters. And they did not even take the money. So that's what is the culture of South. That's the kind of thing which we guys do. So please be proud of who we are, where we are. We are in a land of immense potential, and we are blessed to be in this part of the country. Thank you everyone for all the attention.
Thank you, sir. The South is not timid, it's revving with activity. Please stay back. We'd like to thank you for the memento. You give us a teacup, we'll save your life. Thank you for putting things in perspective. I take this opportunity to invite Mr. Sukumar, Managing Director Anil Sevia, and Mr. G.K. Manohar, Director, Pudya Talak Reviews, to please join us on stage and felicitate our fantastic speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, nice big round of applause.